Okay, so for my Women of Influence project, I chose Ina May Gaskin. Ina May Gaskin is considered the most famous midwife in America because she has always been a critic of the American hospital maternity care. The New York Times quoted that she is perhaps the most prominent figure in the crusade to expand access to and to legalize midwife assisted home birth. She believes that birth was natural and should be treated like not like a medical condition, but instead celebrated and done with the mother's comfort in mind. She attended Marshalltown High School, State University of Iowa, and Northern Illinois University. And after college, she joined the Peace Corps and taught English in Malaysia for 2 years before returning to the United States to obtain her master's degree. A little background on her personal life. Back in the United States after the Peace Corps, Ina May and her husband would attend spiritual lectures from a professor called Stephen Gaskin, who was married at the time, where Stephen Gaskin would basically try to explain what people's LSD like acid trips were supposed to mean for their future. So it was supposed to be like a spiritual experience. But anyway, the two, Ina and her husband, would attend, and they shortly became a for marriage with Stephen Gaskin and his previous wife. Obviously, the for marriage wasn't recognized by the state, but the two couples lived together and acted as if they were all four married, but this caused a lot of tension and problems. And they ended up, Ina May and Stephen were the only ones who ended up staying together. And then Ina May and Stephen caravanned around the country so that Stephen could continue doing his spiritual lectures. Um, and then once they ended up in a rural part of Tennessee, they bought the land and created a commune where lots of people that were caravanning with them could stay. And this ended up becoming the Farm Midwifery Center in 1971, which is what Ina May is famous for creating. This is her center for home births, where she uh, delivers people from the commune's babies naturally, and also she invites people from around the United States to come and have natural births with her at the center. Contributions to women's health. So I think the biggest thing that Gaskin accomplished was that she gave women the options for how to labor with her farm midwifery center, and also the numerous books she wrote explaining what natural home births are like. She also emphasized that giving birth is natural and should be treated as so, and also that the birthing environment should be comfortable for the mother, which is at the time was opposite to how the hospitals ran. At the time, the hospitals treated the mothers like they were going into a random surgery, and it was an inconvenience for them, and it was very stressful for a lot of the mothers at the time, since they weren't treated like this was a normal occurrence that a woman was pregnant and giving birth. And so Ina May was completely opposite of this, and she wanted to emphasize the naturalness of birth and the beauty of it, and make sure that the environment above all else was comfortable for the mother, so that the mother didn't feel like she went through a traumatic event, but Ina May wanted her to feel like she went through a spiritual event. And so, yeah, her accomplishments, she has a few. In 1982, Gaskin, along with a few other midwives, created an organization called Midwives Alliance of North America, or MANA, and later they founded the North American Registry of Midwives. And she also created what is now known as the Gaskin maneuver, which is a specific way to adjust the baby as it's being birthed in order to prevent shoulder dystocia. And it became the first obstetrical procedure to be named after a midwife, which is a really big accomplishment, because a lot of hospitals are sued for babies getting shoulder dystocia. And Ina May came up with a specific way to maneuver them out safely. And so, yeah, this was a really huge deal in her career. And furthermore, the center also has great outcomes with high risk births, such as breech bigger babies and vaginal births after C-sections, which gives mothers an alternative to surgery because these mothers went to a hospital with any of these conditions. The hospital would pressure them into having surgery because they consider them to be high risk. But Ina May is very comfortable in these um, quote unquote higher risk birthing situations. And so she offers just an alternative option for mothers in these situations. And then her famous book, Spiritual Midwifery, was also the first text to be written by a midwife that was published in the United States. And this is one of her most famous accomplishments. Spiritual midwifery really blew up and was the catalyst to women starting to accept home births um, as a viable option for childbirth. And then also in 2011, Gaskin received the Right to Livelihood Award from the Swedish Parliament. And this award is often referred to as an alternative Nobel Peace Prize. So, yeah, that's really awesome. And then a quote from Ina May: birth shouldn't be thought of as a money-making commodity or condition in which large institutions or government control and dictate how women will give birth, ignoring individual mothers' wishes and needs. Yeah, and I think this is a great quote. I think it encapsulates exactly how she felt about the situation. She was definitely a critic of the American hospital system. She felt like it made women feel like they were a burden, like being pregnant was a burden, like giving birth was a burden. And she wanted to really celebrate and highlight the naturalness and the beauty of giving birth. And really make sure that the individual mother's wishes and needs were accommodated. And yeah, and then application. This is a poster for her movie, the movie she starred in, Birth Story, Ina May Gaskin and the Farm Midwives. And this goes in depth a little bit more about what life on the farm was like, and how a little bit more, I guess, about her backstory as well. But it's really, really interesting if you want to check it out. So I thought I'd leave it there. But under my application, Ina May's fight for the legalization of midwife-assisted home birth has given us opportunity. Without her experience and vocalization of the woman's right to labor how she pleases, then we wouldn't have the option. We would all be forced to labor in hospitals, even if we felt uncomfortable or disagreed with the protocols they perform. Ina May fought to educate us on the naturalness of labor and to give us opportunity to labor how we felt it best for ourselves and our babies. Conclusion. This woman, although some may see her as controversial, has fought to give women the right to choose the way they give birth, and I think that's truly admirable. Although society and even the Feminist Party at multiple times was against her, she prevailed, insisting that birth was both natural and beautiful and needed to be treated as so, not like a medical condition. And because of her dedication, many women are now opting to have natural home births instead, a possibility that wouldn't have been recognized without Ina May. And so, yeah, these are my references. Thank you very much for listening.